Welcome to Season 5 of the Long-Winded One podcast. Listen as we showcase original work from top Royal Road authors read by professional voice actors. Hear interviews from your favorite lit RPG and game lit authors. Lastly, listen as the Long-Winded One tries his hand at his first ever lit RPG novel, The Four Treasures.
Hi there. You're listening to an excerpt of Jank, written by Jack Pembroke and narrated by Kramer. Optimus Live VR headset recognized. Origin Online successfully installed. Update available. Game must restart. I grimaced. The Day 1 patch was just a band-aid to hold this game together through launch. They had released a glitchy mess, and I was going to make them pay. Back when we started, I believed in Origin Online. It was going to be beautiful, the most ambitious and technologically advanced free-to-play fantasy MMORPG the world had ever seen. But now, as its flashy intro soared across the pristine landscape, I had to close my eyes. It was like being unable to enjoy a favorite food after it's made you sick. I had sat through this intro hundreds of times during testing, probably thousands. They had refused to shorten the unskippable intro sequence, and still it went on. I rapid-clicked, as if by some miracle I'd be allowed to skip it. Title screen, new character, human, default stats, default avatar, default equipment package number 1. Yes, I'm sure. Skip tutorial. Start game. Muscle memory allowed me to race through the setup process, clicking where the buttons would appear like precognition. My new boring character spawned into Origin Online's starting town, if it could even be called that. I was already an expert, with thousands of hours logged in every square inch of this buggy hellhole. All that time exchanged for silence, platitudes, and a crappy paycheck. The starting town was packed with the identical avatars of thousands of other players, who rushed through the setup to get their first glimpse of this incredible new online experience. To its credit, OO's quantum server never skipped a beat. It really was a marvel of technology. Every player on Earth would exist in a single open world, bigger and more spectacular than anything that came before. Except the starting hovel, of course. Who cares about first impressions, right? OO was so hyped that they talked about its progress on the evening news. Distinguished white-haired men would drone on about world tragedies, scandals, and disasters, then smile as they came to the latest promise that Claude Vanderstint had made about Origin Online. Claude Vanderstint. Even thinking the name made me grit my teeth. I had 48 hours to reach level 100, and I had to do it before anyone else. The players around me were gawking at the beautiful VR textures, testing the game physics, or rushing toward the first NPC with a quest indicator. I began jumping, backwards, into the surrounding jungle. They had fixed the infinite acceleration glitch, but only by giving a top maximum speed. The solution was rushed and worse, not very effective. Lush foliage flew past me, tiny fantasy animals scattering in my wake. I knew the route so well I didn't even need to turn my head. I arrived at the fungus field and snatched up red and blue cap mushrooms as fast as I could. My macro combined them as soon as they appeared in my inventory. At early levels, spamming craftables was the fastest way to gain XP. My level indicator dinged again and again. I checked the option to auto-level, automatically distributing points to the default warrior stats. Choose a power, said the game. Players earned a feat upon reaching level 5. I opened the menu and picked Iron Fist from the hundreds of abilities available. Now my bare fists counted as low-quality tools. I beelined for a towering oak and rapid-clicked to attack it as fast as possible. My upgraded fists made taking down the tree possible, but not efficient. It took 12 minutes of continuous clicking to down it. I shook out my mouse hand as the massive trunk splintered and cracked, its invisible HP gauge reduced to 0. The crash would certainly be investigated by new players. They could help themselves to the uncommon wood. I would be back later. I needed a weapon, and I knew just the one. Reverse jumping toward the Doom Ridge Mountain, I passed dozens of other players. They were having fun exploring this brave new world and sampling all it had to offer. They were like 1,000 digital Adams and Eves. I pitied them. They hadn't sampled the tree of knowledge yet. They were happy because they were innocent. I would be their serpent. It took 45 minutes of reverse jumping to reach Doom Ridge Mountain. The scope of the game was exhilarating, until you realized what an ordeal changing locations became. Then you'd look for ways to skip it and just get where you were going. You'd be led to a quest line that unlocked the option to pay actual money for a fast travel scroll. Con man. You're just a typical con man, Claude. Con man Claude. Good alliteration. I'd have to remember that for when I reached the end. Doom Ridge Mountain contained a high-level dungeon. One of my favorites, actually. The blinding smoke, lava bombs, and rivers of molten rock made the environment as dangerous as the Salamander tribe enemies. Even cooler was that attempting the dungeon triggered a volcanic eruption that would rain destruction on anyone near the mountain. I hated what they did to this game. This was such a cool dungeon. There were others, too. Inspired challenges for dedicated players. Relics left by the developers who poured their souls into OO before they were replaced by cheap labor to rush the game out. I bunny-hopped my way up the mountain to the dungeon's exit. A large boulder blocked the tunnel, and I wedged myself against the seam. I went into the settings and cranked my control sensitivity. I began spinning while I jumped against the boulder and the wall, and my stomach lurched at the whirlwind of movement. My avatar began to twist in midair and jittered between the pieces of geometry. I squinted to minimize nausea. Come on, you bastard. Where the hell is the player? The character location tracker fumed. Well, mostly they're over here, but sometimes they're also a little over there, said the geometry. Nonsense, they can't be in 2 places at once. Pick one and put them there. Yes! I was beginning to fear the boulder clip issue had been fixed. I ran down the tunnel to the dungeon treasure vault. The Salamander King who guarded the vault was safely on the wrong side of the door. I pulled aggro on him, but he had no way to reach me. I could hear his distinctive tongue attack. He pulled you into his mouth and crushed you for trillions of damage. Unavoidable, unfair, and in this game, basically criminal. I skipped the mountains of gold and gems, grabbed the salamander plate armor, 2 rings of life fortification, and a helm of endurance. All were useful, but the real prize was resting on the altar. The Axe of Earth's Fire. An artifact of incredible power, said to require a wielder to prove their worth in order to hold it, according to the item description. This test was to burn whoever picked it up for an obscene amount of damage. If you survived, you were worthy. If not, bring on the next contender. I used to think it was a neat effect, but in retrospect it was just another trap. I threw an empty chest at the altar. The chest burst into flames and diluted the axe in the recharge window before the test was active again. A bug meant the axe considered just about anything to be a valid target. I was the one to first discover this glitch. It was early on, when we thought our bug reports mattered. My fellow testers and I had managed to get a generic NPC to survive the test and pick up the axe, becoming its true owner, and keeping it out of reach of players forever. It seemed so funny at the time. Now the axe of Earth's fire was mine. Other players would be picking up their first iron weapons by now, oohing and eyeing over their +1 gear. I was now the single most powerful player in the game. It would take 6 months of grinding for someone to match me. I'm not done yet, you son of a bitch. This has been Jank, written by Jack Pembroke and narrated by Henry Kramer. Produced for Season 5 of the Long-Winded One podcast. The author and/or any present or future publishing company retains all the rights for the associated work. This work was read by permission of the author. For more books by the narrator Henry Kramer, please visit www.henrywkramer.com or follow on social media at HWKramerVO. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us down this Lit RPG deep dive. Please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts and visit us over at longwinded.one, where you can see past episodes and find all of our socials, even our new Discord server. We hope you enjoy.